Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said something the other day that caught my eye. I mean, the old saying is, it's better late than never, and kind of think it applies here. So she says, House progressives are standing up. If Senator Manchin and the rest of the Senate approve the reconciliation bill, then we will approve their bipartisan bill. But if they try to strip immigration reform, childcare, climate action, etc., then we're at an impasse. It's a no-go. And she's responding to, AOC vows progressives will tank the bipartisan infrastructure bill if a reconciliation bill including more care economy and climate change measures isn't passed in tandem. So, this is really interesting because so the bipartisan bill is done. It's the infrastructure bill. Then the partisan bill, the reconciliation bill, they also just completed that, and it came out of committee. It's a $3.5 trillion bill. So what AOC is saying is, that's it. That's the bill. Take it or leave it, Joe Manchin. So ain't going to strip out any climate change provisions. Ain't going to make any other changes. If you guys change that, then we're not going to vote for your bipartisan bill. So either we get both of these or we get none of these. That's what she's saying here. This is definitely the kind of hardball that needs to be played. Now, I do want to caution everybody up front, though, because the way that this stuff works is, if they didn't say this, they don't have a seat at the table. So in other words, if they just went along like they've done with all the other bills so far, they don't have a voice, they don't have a say, they don't get to exert influence and use leverage in the debate. But now with her saying this, the progressives that she's, voting as a block with, now they have a seat at the table. Now they're in the conversation. Now they get to use their leverage. Now they get to throw their weight around a little bit. So what she's saying isn't even necessarily exactly what's going to happen. But the fact that she said this now makes it so that she has to be at the table. She has to be in the room with Biden. She has to be in communication with them and negotiating with them. So the fact that she did this means they will be able to now negotiate a bill that's not as bad as it would have been otherwise. So in other words, the bill could have been $1 trillion, let's say, with everything climate stripped out of it and a number of things stripped out of it. And now with her saying this, and if the progressives are going to vote as a block on this front, and they are, it seems like they've coordinated that, well, now maybe that bill's not going to be $1 trillion, maybe it's going to be $2 or $2.5 trillion. And maybe you get, the universal pre-K and childcare and other provisions that are really important. Maybe you get that, and instead of having no climate change stuff, you get some climate change stuff that also pertains to physical infrastructure, let's say. So, but I want to be clear, and I want everybody to understand, this is how you play politics. This is AOC and the House progressives acting like Joe Manchin. The reason why Joe Manchin often gets his way is because he says this, and he does this. Now, if they didn't say this, if the House progressives didn't say this, they wouldn't have a seat at the table, and the bill would be all what Manchin wants. But now that they're at the table, they're going to have to split the difference between what Manchin wants and what the House progressives want. And you're going to get a better bill as a result of them throwing around their weight like this. This is the right thing to do. Now, by the way, I really, really, really want them to listen to this and understand this is a good faith criticism, and I'd really like it if they adopted this. But if they have the nerve to do this, and they have the spine to do this, okay, what I really want them to do is, why not call a press conference, have your block of fellow progressives who are going to vote together, and you have so much power if you have like 12 of them and they vote together. You have no idea how much power they have. Call a press conference and say, we are blocking any and all pieces of legislation from getting to Joe Biden's desk, unless and until he breaks out that executive order pen and eliminates student loan debt, legalizes marijuana, frees every nonviolent drug offender that he has the power to free, and make a list of things that he can do through executive order. Here's another example. He has the ability through executive order to give everybody who had COVID and needed medical treatment to just wipe away all their bills, have that be paid for by the federal government. Do that. So make a list of like 10 things and say, we're going to block everything unless and until Joe Biden uses that executive order pen to do this. Now, if they do that, you and I both know what would happen. Democratic leadership melts down and denounces them. Joe Biden melts down and denounces them. The media melts down and denounces them. And they all say, you're just helping the Republicans now. You're in league with the Republicans. This is what Republicans want. You're doing it. And that's so much pressure and that's so hard to withstand. But if you stand strong and you have a spine and you say, we are representing the American people. Look at all the polls. They agree with us on this. So we are the ones who are being small d democratic and representing their will. We're the ones who are doing our job. All of you are authoritarian and you're overriding the will of the people. So it's not on me. It's on you. If you want things to get to your desk, then do these things that the American people want, or nothing's going to get to your desk. And it's not my fault. It's not my problem. It's your problem. You're the one to blame. Now, if you do that, what's going to happen? Joe Biden is not going to say, I'll give you all 10 of those things. It's just not going to happen. But what he will do is, after you do it for long enough and they know you're serious, and they know you don't care about the onslaught of threats against you and smear campaigns against you, he'll call you into the office and you'll talk and you'll negotiate. And maybe the list of 10 things gets whittled down to 5. And maybe those 5 things he tweaks ever so slightly. I won't legalize marijuana, but fine, I'll make it a Schedule 3 drug instead of a Schedule 1 drug. Whatever. Something. For the love of God, something. I'm not going to eliminate all student loan debt, but I'll do 30 grand of it. And then you say, no, 50. Then he, 35, 40. Okay, fine, 40. Something. You need a seat at the table. And if you do that, if you play that kind of hardball, even though you'll feel like the entire country is against you and the media is against you and whatever, in the end, you'll be a hero because he'll do something through executive order. So if you're going to do this, and now you're beginning to understand the tactics of the Tea Party that you're supposed to use, well, then you can do that. And we could get a lot more change in a small time frame than you think. So listen, we have to give them credit where credit is due. Credit on this. Use this same mindset now and apply it in a number of different ways. I like the executive order thing because that's how you get the most change in the shortest amount of time. So that's what I like, but you don't just have to use my idea. Come up with your own idea. This was obviously their own idea. I've never said that this is the right way to handle this one, but now that I see that they're doing it, I like it. I support it. I think it's great. I have issues with that bipartisan bill because there's some privatization of infrastructure that goes into that, which I'm not okay with. But if you tell me we get that but we also get universal pre-K and childcare and 2 years free community college and all the things that are in the partisan bill, I'm like, this is what politics is. And this is a good deal. It's a really good deal, even though there are parts I don't like. So credit to AOC, credit to the House progressives. Let's see now, but now the devil's in the details. Okay. So now that they're in the room and they have a seat at the table and they're going to be negotiating directly on the bill, let's see how good they do. Because you're going to have to be willing to shoot the hostage in some situations. If Joe Manchin is insistent, no, only a $1 trillion bill, and we're stripping it of like all the good things, well, then you have to say, go fuck yourself, and we're not going to vote for the bipartisan one. So you have to be willing to shoot the hostage. You have to have the courage of your convictions, but also, I hope they can negotiate in a way where they get a decent deal. I would think a decent deal is not, they're not going to get the $3.5 trillion bill, but if they're at the table and they can get $2 to $2.5 trillion, and they could get a lot of these things like, universal pre-K, childcare, 2 years community college, some climate change provisions, and whatever, raise taxes on the wealthy. If you can get that, that's awesome, and I'll give you credit. And we know that bill would have been way worse if they didn't have a seat at the table. But now the devil's in the details, and they have to negotiate a decent package. And obviously I can't tell you if I like it or not until the details of that are out. But hopefully relatively soon the details that'll be out, and we'll see. And when it's going to go from 3.5 trillion to, listen, if it's anything in like the 1 point something trillions, anything from 1 trillion to 1.9 trillion, I don't think they did that great of a job negotiating. If it stays to 2 or 2.5, they maybe did do a decent job negotiating, and it depends on the specific provisions. But this is the mindset, this is the approach. You're not in Washington, D.C. to make friends. You're not in Washington, D.C. to climb the ladder. You're not in Washington, D.C. to go along to get along. You're there to represent the people. These are the kind of tactics that will make it so that the people get more. And now you know. Fuck the media when they come after you, if they come after you. Fuck Democratic leadership. Fuck the Republicans and the Republican leadership. Do your job, and this is what your job is. Credit to you.